Welcome back to our proverb devotional, this time diving into Proverbs chapter 21, which reads this: A fortune made by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a deadly snare. Okay. Biggest picture, obviously, is the dangers behind lying. And even so much as knowing that you can build a lot off of a lying tongue, right? And getting people to buy in to some type of picture of yourself or of your situation that actually isn't true, and being able to create a lot out of that. Okay. And I think we can see that ultimately lying gets us into spaces of death. I mean, in some cases, we know that can end up being physical death in terms of just loss of major things, loss of peace, loss of joy, loss of satisfaction. And ultimately, we aren't really reflecting the heart of Christ in a lot of ways. And we see how important truth is throughout the entire narrative of Scripture. What I really want to highlight in this entire devotional, though, to go deeper and even connect this to the relationships that we carry, is understanding a few principles when it comes to maybe what pushes us to lie, but even more so what lying actually does in the long scheme of things. Because if you're like me, you have actually had a lot of moments where you've lied, all these different scenarios and situations that we'll come up with to defend the reason for lying. But it seems in this text that there actually isn't a legitimate reason, because we see that in the end, it actually doesn't profit us anything. In fact, the fortune that we build up from the lying tongue comes crumbling down. So what is it about lying then that kind of puts a stamp on this entire passage? And I think it's a few things. I think it's possible to consider that it's harder to keep up with lies. I think in a lot of ways, when you speak lies, when you use a lying tongue, you have to put yourself in a place of remembering every lie you told. We don't really want to find ourselves having to remember every little thing we said. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to simply tell the truth. But even closer to that is really coming to the conclusion that one step in truth is worth more than 1,000 steps in lies. When I'm willing to make the decision to tell the truth, no matter how crazy it can be, and in some cases, how threatening it can be. I mean, when we talk about telling the truth to people in so many different scenarios and situations, it can be challenging, whether we don't want to hurt that person's feelings. We don't want to lose this person that we feel is really close to our lives. We don't want to destroy this person's potential confidence or hurt this person's feelings in any way. And even in some cases, maybe a lie has gone on for so long that if you were to actually begin to tell the truth, you could start seeing a lot of the things you're going to lose. But hear me when I say this: it is a greater disservice to continue allowing such a thing to go on, knowing that you are not in a principal place of truth. And keeping in that information is not only misleading, it's ultimately not love in the end. And if we're going to create genuine transformative relationships in our lives, it is so much better to build that on a foundation of truth, where we can be honest with one another, vulnerable with one another, and tell each other like it TI is every day of the week and twice on Sunday, than to lie and continue to lie and pretend to live out something that may actually not be present in the connection. Because ultimately, anything that's built out of lies will come crumbling down. And because you had to lie to get it in that fashion, you have to continue to lie to keep it in that fashion. And lies definitely don't last longer than the truth. So diving into this crash course, discovering lies and how dangerous the lying tongue is, there also are some things that show up when we do share lies. And just a few of them we consider: insecurities, fear, assumptions, and even comparison that causes us to no longer live in the reality, in truth in our lives, and find ourselves playing this rabbit hole of a game where we are opening up one door after another, all in the name of lies to potentially look good. Maybe because we don't want to be seen in a certain light, in a certain way. A lot of the stories that you create in your mind as a result of the events and things that took place in your life. And you're convincing yourself that if you were to tell the truth, no one would like you, no one would appreciate you, no one would be on your side, no one would support you or continue to love you through such a season. So it's just one of those things that keeps us coddled up and not telling the truth and just continuing to walk out a known lie. And even if these things that show up, of course, not suggesting that this is all that shows up, but out of these few, I would like you to begin asking yourself these questions the moment you find yourself tempted to tell a lie. What am I insecure about? What am I afraid of? What is it that I am assuming? Is there anything that I'm potentially comparing myself to? And when you go down that list and you potentially ask all those questions and give thoughtful answers to them, then I want you to conclude with this question: is any of what I'm feeling true? Oftentimes, a lot of the things that we're feeling in these spaces don't always stem from the current situation in hand. Rather, it stems from our remembrance and reflection of previous spaces where we experienced something similar. So, similar emotions are starting to stir. And what we have to remind ourselves is that even though we recognize that such a thing happened to us, and maybe this specific scenario and situation is reminding us of this, it may not actually be coming from the person that we are engaging this specific conversation or thought towards. And what we're given is an opportunity to still step in and do something like this, even if we're doing it afraid, because we recognize that it's not coming from them. They haven't given us a reason to feel this way. Therefore, I believe I have the capacity to still be truthful and not tell a lie out of insecurity, fear, assumption, or even comparison. And as you're thinking these things through, reflect on the stories that you're telling yourself in this space. Reflect on all the negative sequences that you've kind of rabbit holed that ultimately causes us to withhold and not pour out. And as you think of those things, as you recognize your mind running to those places, come back to truth. Take a step out of that imaginative scenario you created and ask yourself, is any of that true? Do I have any actual evidence that these thoughts would actually be the outcome if I were to be honest? And yes, truth is, we don't really know completely until we do it. And with any relationship and connection that we have with somebody, we do typically carry enough evidence from previous experiences to be able to determine what would more than likely take place. Holding in a lie is a lot of weight, and it bears so much on our shoulders. And to live in a lie is something that many of us may have contemplated doing and maybe have done before. But once we get a taste of how freeing truth is, we wouldn't want to go back. So, my encouragement to you, no matter how crazy the secret is, no matter how deep it may be, no matter how afraid you might be of what the repercussions could be if you told someone the truth, get connected to somebody who's trusted, somebody who knows you and who loves you, someone who you can genuinely depend on in moments where you're experiencing these kinds of thoughts. If anything, you can be honest with them and allow them to help you navigate having the conversation, having the confrontation, and sharing the truth with whomever this thing needs to truly go towards. Because in the end, it is better to be truthful than it is to stand on deceit and lies. And I think one of the worst things you can do is build a fortune out of the relationship that you carry, knowing that it was all standing on a lie that was doomed to fall apart from the beginning. And please know too that there isn't any condemnation in this thought or message being shared, because I have had plenty of experiences where I convinced myself that I needed to lie in order to go places, in order to do things, because I felt as if I couldn't tell the truth, because if I did, I wouldn't have gotten what I wanted. And from my own experiences and actually beginning to walk in places of integrity from those moments forward. Yes, it was a challenge, and it's something that I've had to continuously work through and not revert back to. But it's one that I've seen such great benefit from in my own walk in life with God, to value honesty, value telling the truth, and seeing how damaging telling a lie can really be, because we never really anticipate something to go as far as it does until it happens. And those are some of the worst outcomes that we can potentially experience in this crash course of life. So, my ending question to you is, do you care more about truth or do you care more about approval? And I think if we care more about truth, not only will we value it more, but we will become more and more unwilling to allow lies and deceit to separate us from people we love and care for most, wanting to keep things truthful and not become manipulative over time. Appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you like this kind of content and want to hear more, definitely subscribe, like this video, share with a friend who can benefit from hearing a devotional such as this. I appreciate you guys so much. And until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Hey. Peace.